Okay, so we're gonna get started soon. And let's let some folks join us. Today I'm really excited because of who we get to talk to. The past few weeks, we have been really working on, told. IG's telling me I need to wait for more people to join. So let's give some folks some time to join us. It is a time difference. Today we changed our time to start. We usually do this at noon, but today we are starting at 12:30 because Council President Nikki Fortunato Bass and her budget team, they had a press conference earlier today. So we were there at the press conference. So I believe Council President Nikki Fortunato Bass is on her way to where she can take the to join our live. But welcome everybody who's joining us here. It's so great to see so many folks. My name is Liz Huck. I'm the Executive Director for Oakland Rising Action. I am really excited today about today's conversation. We have been working together with the Defund and the Refund coalitions, as well as with Oakland Progressive Alliance for the past few months. And with Defund Coalition, really have been working on defunding the police together as a coalition since last summer, really rooted in the work that Anti-Police Terror Project had done with their Defund OPD campaign for many years. And Refund, actually, the Refund Coalition is a broad-based coalition of organizations across the city of Oakland that are doing both base building work and service work, and just doing a lot of work on over several budget cycles through together to really look at the budget and look at how we can win the budget that really reflects the values of our community and how do we refund. And I just see Nikki joining us. I'm going to invite them to join us. So it looks like, Nikki, you might need to update with the latest version of IG. So you might need to go to apps and update your IG Live real quick. And then I'll just continue giving folks updates as when you get that done. And then when you get back on, you could just chat me to let me know that you have gotten that. Okay. So as Council Member Bass updates her app and gets us going, I'll just keep giving a few more updates. So today, Council President Nikki Fortunato Bass dropped her amendment proposals to Mayor Libby Schaaf's budget, and it happened this morning. We just came from a press conference where Nikki's whole budget team came together. So that budget team was made of Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Fife, Councilmember Kalb, and Councilmember Gallo. They came together and really worked on a budget that I'm really excited to talk about today. And so there was a press conference earlier today, and so let me see if... Okay, so it looks like she's not there yet. Came together with community and held a press conference because today was to drop. And it's really funny because I think we were all functioning from the date of, because similarly, when it came to, and Oakland Rising Action has posted the video from today's live stream. So thank you, Oakland Rising team, comms team, for putting that in the chat so y'all could check that out at our Facebook Live or Facebook video, so you could see that press conference if you didn't get to check it out earlier. But what I was saying was that today, so we thought that the city council president's budget proposal comes out on the 10th. And because the mayor's budget is supposed to come out a week before it goes before the city council. So we thought similarly to the city council president's proposal would be the same. But because it's just an amendment, oh, here she goes, she's ready. Because it's just an to the mayor's proposal, it just required 48-hour before the, oh, there she goes. Hi, Nikki.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're here.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Great. So thank you for joining us today. We're really excited about today. Today is the day that you dropped your budget amendment proposals to the mayor's budget proposal that was put out about a month ago. And so we're really excited about that. But before we jump into that, Monday Meals is supposed to be about how we nourish ourselves, right? Like bringing the heart and mind together in a place where we could really just talk with people who do the work in the community and are really fighting for progressive policy and progressive action in the city of Oakland and beyond into Alameda County. And so, so part of that is, what do you eat? How do you take care of yourself? And so I was wondering, what are you going to have for lunch today? I didn't prepare because we came from the press conference that we were holding. But
yeah, well, I'm hearing
Japanese fried chicken down the street. I better go grab that.
Oh, yum. Well, I'm here in my kitchen. I actually love to cook, and I especially love to bake. I don't have a lot of time for that. But I'm going to have some leftovers today. It's been really busy, and so we've got some Indian takeout that I'll be having for lunch.
Yay, that sounds
good. Yeah.
Sometimes.
But I love to nourish my soul through cooking, baking, eating, and I haven't done this as much during the pandemic, but I'm really excited to start running again.
Yeah.
And nourishing my physical self. So
yes. Yeah. I take my dog for a walk in the morning and at night, and I do about 2 miles a day. And if I get out and do the walk, I'm just cranky. And so it's just good to especially because we're spending so much time in front of a screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm never blinking.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, so it's good to just get outside. And so it's good to hear that I hope you can get out and start running again soon.
That's my hope.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited. Like I was saying, you shared your budget proposal today, your amendments to the mayor's budget. And so I'm really excited about it. So could you tell us a little bit about what's been happening over the past few weeks, right? Because there's been a lot of things, so many pieces. And the community has been really showing up by doing walk days, including one in your district last week.
That's right.
We did District 4 and we did District 1 and 3 the week before, and 5, 6, and 7. We went across almost the whole city. So with the Refund Coalition, so excited about that. But can you tell us about what that experience has been like for you and for the council and your council, your budget team that you put together?
Sure. So, well, I first want to thank everyone who's been participating in our budget process. It's been amazing, both inside and outside City Hall, out in the communities, people door knocking, people connecting via social media. It's been amazing. And the thing that I think I've been really focused on with my team, especially with tomorrow being the reopening, is what does it look like to have a people-centered Just Recovery that's based on healing and wellness.
Right.
And what we're going to do with this budget is start that process. And, you know, what we've been doing over the past few weeks is analyzing the mayor's proposed budget. It's in a very different format than ever.
Totally.
It is still literally, you know, more than 500 pages, and it's also online.
Right.
So we're learning to navigate the new budget format. The positive thing is that there's much more information, so there's more transparency,
Right.
and we have more access to information, so that's really good.
Right.
My team, which includes council members Carol Fife, Noel Gallo, and Dan Kalb, we've been digging into the budget to understand it. We've been meeting with a number of department directors to understand from their perspective whether they work on housing or homelessness or transportation, violence prevention. What is their perspective on whether the proposed budget helps them deliver the services we need?
Right.
And then, of course, we've been listening to community. And I really appreciate folks who came out last Saturday to door knock in the Eastlake area and talk to people one-on-one.
Right.
Like I shared at the press conference, I can't even count the number of people whom I know who lost their jobs last year in March and April who were still unemployed.
Ooh.
I can't count the number of people I've met who were housing insecure, especially among our artists and culture workers who've been doing amazing telling their story about how this budget could really start to help deliver to that particular community. And I've also had to join healing circles with families whose sons have been lost to gun violence. And that's not acceptable. That's what we're starting to structurally change with this budget. And because I mentioned running, I'll tell folks, this is not a sprint. It's not all going to happen by June 30th when we have to pass the budget. It's a marathon because we're talking about undoing decades, if not centuries, of structural oppression and, you know, the racism, heteropatriarchy, and capitalism that drives our economy to extract resources from our community.
That's right. And you know what? I just want to, I say this almost every single IG Live that we've had about the budget, is that really this city alone, right? Like what you're mentioning, Nikki, around like, it's like embedded in this country, right? And it is about the disinvestment in particular communities. And
that's right.
How racism, this is how the misogyny, this is how the poverty really works, into the economic injustice really works, is through places like this, through our budget, through our policies. And so I was just really excited today at that press conference. When I saw your budget this morning, I was like, oh my God, let me read this. And I was like frantically reading it. But when I read that, I was really excited about, and I want to hear what you're excited about. But I was really excited because it felt like for the first time in a very long time in my memory of being in Oakland, and I grew up here, being a budget that actually heard and reflects the voice of the community. Community organizers that have been doing this work for decades, like for housing justice, asking for workers' protection, asking for culture, arts and culture, and really thinking about what safety really looks like for our community. We've been talking about this for decades, and it was finally this place where we saw folks who were from the community, who are in places of government, that are finally like standing within their values and holding themselves accountable to the community. And I just have to say, I had a little bit of, I'm having goosebumps right now thinking about it.
Wow.
Because it's something that we've been talking about forever, right? It feels like forever. And I just want to thank you, Nikki, for all of the work that you've really been doing for the community, and how this budget, I know you really threw down for this. And so I guess I wanted to hear, like, what are some of the highlights that you want to lift up from the budget so that folks can see? You all, I think our folks from Oakland Rising Action, our Oakland Rising team is posting where you could go look for the budget.
Terrific.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the city website through the Legistar. You could go to.
exactly.
You have to go in. It's a little digging, y'all. You have to go into the meeting agenda and then find it. You can find it, and then we'll put some links in too for you all to find it easier. But if you could tell us about what are those highlights?
Sure. So, we're really fortunate that with this budget, we have the federal stimulus funds to invest. We also are making some reallocations from our police department into violence prevention. So the things that we will be able to invest in first are $17 million towards the Department of Violence Prevention so that we can really start to implement a violence prevention strategy that's holistic.
Right.
Addressing issues with young people, addressing gender-based violence, really investing in the structure that will keep our community safe.
Right.
We're also investing $3.6 million in our macro program, which is our crisis responder program. And so we know that what the community has been calling for is an alternative response to policing.
Right.
Because we have mental health crisis, we have cars blocking driveways, we have all these things, false alarms that police are responding to, and it doesn't make sense. So we'll start investing through the Department of Violence Prevention and through our fire department with our crisis responder program in alternatives for when people call 911 and alternatives that get to the root of keeping communities safe. I have to talk about housing because that's a huge priority for me and my budget team. Huge. It's only gotten worse during this pandemic.
Right.
And so in terms of affordable housing, 2 years ago, I worked with ACE and the Oakland Community Land Trust and a bunch of other folks to create a permanent affordable housing fund.
Right.
Investing $12 million so that tenants could work with land trusts and co-ops to purchase their home and not be housing insecure.
Right.
So we are prioritizing state funding that we get for that type of acquisition and rehabilitation of homes to keep Oaklanders in Oakland. We want to replenish that fund with 12 million, if not more.
Oof.
We are also going to make sure we're addressing homeless encampments. We upped our budget so we can provide sanitation and basic dignity to more than 100 encampments.
Love it.
But again, we're prioritizing immediate shelter and affordable housing because we know that people need services and homes to really thrive in our community. And then there's a number of other things that we're doing to restore crossing guards. So when our kids go back to school in August, they'll be safe. We're reopening our parks and rec centers so that people have a place to recreate. So a lot of this really makes a lot of sense. We're happy to be restoring things as well as adding things we've heard loud and clear from the community, also around jobs and arts and culture.
Yes.
But I want to say again to you, Liz, this budget is not going to solve everything. Nope. We have to keep going, and I am committed. The other thing my team has been doing is meeting with our state and federal lobbyists to make sure we can leverage state and federal funds for Oakland. So there's deeper investment in housing and violence prevention, for example, deeper investment in art and culture and jobs.
That's right. That's right. And, I know that a lot of folks feel this way because oftentimes when we're looking at budgets, it feels like, oh, that's our goal. And it really is just the beginning, right? It's just, so it is our compass. Gives us direction, gives the city, it gives the city a pathway, like
that's right,
signpost. And so along the way, we're not saying after this budget is over, everyone just kick back. It's all going to happen.
Not at all.
Not at all. This is our time to actually, we've seen so many people show up from the community. And it's been really exciting because you feel that energy where people are like, you know what? We're sick of this. We are done with a city and an administration and a mayor who does not invest in us, right? And so we really I think we just heard a lot of people that this is our moment. This is a really good moment to spark a fire under people to get involved get involved
Right.
with organizations like Oakland Rising, but part of our partnerships are, our partner organizations like Ella Baker Center for Human Rights,
Mm-hmm.
Mujeres, Causa Justa Just Cause, and then Michelle Mushley just put in there Protect Oakland Chinatown, Asian
Yep.
Environmental Network, eBase. All of these organizations are doing the hard work in the community, and
Exactly.
opportunity to get involved. And and with just not with Oakland Rising, but there's like in Refund Coalition, there's ACE Action, there's Anti-Police Terror Project. There's so many organizations, Urban Peace Movement, right? There's so many orgs that are doing the work. This is the time for you to now get involved, because that's what we're doing. We're pushing
Yep.
and
That's right.
city to make sure that because the budget passes and now it's on the administration to make it happen.
That's right. Exactly. The council is the policymaking and budgetary authority. And so we'll be making those decisions as we meet on Thursday this week, Thursday next week. And if we haven't passed our budget by the 24th, we have one more meeting on the 29th to pass a budget that really stands with our values and reflects those values.
Right.
But like you said, creates a roadmap for a deep investment in community infrastructure across the board. Because we know, like the community has been saying my whole term in office, and when I was out in the community organizing, it's about affordable housing, it's about good jobs, quality education, accessible healthcare. It's about art and culture. And also, we love Oakland so much, really being able to experience the love and the joy that we have for the city.
Yeah.
With our art and culture workers.
Yes.
In our restaurants and in our parks.
Yeah.
In so many ways. And so I really hope that as we have this budget process, it inspires folks inside City Hall, including the council members, to think about what we can be, not what we can't do.
That's right.
Because so much is about, oh, we can't do this or that. But we never will even get to that place unless we set our goal high and we try. And that's what we're going to do.
That is so right? Because that's all we always hear is not today. It's like, what do you mean not today?
Right.
What do you mean not today? Like, if not today, when, right? And so this is is a moment. And there was a question in the chat. So can the mayor and the staff stop you? So, and I think that we have seen that in the past, right? And we have seen where, the city council might pass something and then it just sort of disappears into the ether.
Right.
That is the city administration, right? Because then there is a prioritizing that happens. And I think a good opportunity, all of these folks who are involved have been critical, involved in this budget fight, is the same people who need to show up and knock on Libby Schaaf's door, knock on Ed Reskin's door, knock on the city attorney's door, knock on every single commissioner's door and say, yo, do this, and because we told you to do it, and let's make this happen. Like, how do we make that happen? And
that's right.
So and I also want to think about the ways in which we can continue to support you, support, Council Member Fife, support Rebecca Kaplan, support Council Member Shang Tao, and those folks who are really fighting for this budget, right? How do we do that? What are the ways in which people can make that happen? And I wonder what your thoughts about that are.
Sure. Well, just to address the question you talked about in terms of implementation and where that happens. So I really appreciate everyone learning more about how government works.
Yes.
It can be very opaque. One of my values when I entered office 2 years ago is to bring more people power into government and to have more transparency and accountability.
Yep.
So with my role as council president, the big thing I get to do is work with a team to propose amendments to the mayor's proposed budget. But what folks may not have seen as visibly is that I've also been working with the council to coalesce ourselves around a set of priorities. And so that's how our budget was built,
That's right.
both the mayor's proposal and the council amendments. Those priorities are affordable housing and homelessness solutions, public safety and violence prevention, good jobs and a vibrant economy, and clean, healthy, sustainable neighborhoods.
Right.
And we also just recently had a council retreat where we talked about, okay, we've got these priorities,
Right.
we make policy,
Right.
we allocate funds in our budget, then what?
Right.
Before I joined office, the prior council passed a resolution for a public lands policy. We're still waiting on that ordinance since 2018.
Exactly.
So what we are doing is we are creating more transparency
Yes.
that you will see, because it's something that I'm going to drive while I'm council president. We are creating more transparency, so all of those policies and budget allocations that we pass will be talked about in a public council meeting with the administration and our staff, so that we can make priorities together and not have those priorities happen sort of behind closed doors without any oversight.
Right.
And I think that will make a big difference.
That makes a difference. Like when I think about, suddenly watching things that ended up on, on the city council agenda, like, wait, that wasn't the conversation. And then suddenly we would see something completely different and people getting really thrown off. And always walking, I feel like one of the places that people begin to really distrust the government and these structures is that they know it's happening behind closed doors. It didn't actually happen in city council. It happened in the hallway. It happened in a text some behind the door. And so I really appreciate the transparency that both you and, council member Fife have been doing. I love some of her Facebook lives, because
Yep.
it's just like, let me tell you how this, and it's like super basic, but
Right.
it is so necessary, because I think a lot of people don't understand how it works, and what are the
And this is your government.
It-
We are here to serve. And so the more people are engaged and have the information and can participate, the better our communities will be.
So there's a question in here. It says, will this restore the mayor's cuts and ceasefire and other programs to support formerly incarcerated get the education and jobs they need?
So ceasefire is continuing in this budget. I don't believe the mayor cut that program. And we are allocating 1.5 million to workforce development for job training, job placement, and prioritizing the most impacted communities. So formerly incarcerated folks returning home, as well as young people and folks who are homeless.
Right, right. Because I always think about, what are the ways in which there's always, I just feel like there's so many opportunities to offer jobs, right? There's so many programs. And
right.
the city, unlike the only department in the city, which is the police department, that only has 10% of Oakland residents as employees, the city itself actually employs, 75%?
The numbers are pretty high in terms of Oaklanders, people of color, women. That's right.
Exactly.
And that actually is a good point, Liz, because with the investment in violence prevention, that means we can have more violence interrupters from our neighborhoods working in our neighborhoods, more life coaches, more people on our streets in our neighborhoods who are part of the community keeping us safe.
Right.
And so when we think about violence prevention, it's actually a jobs program.
Exactly.
It's a jobs program for Oaklanders to serve the communities that they are already a part of.
Yeah, and I think that that's what people forget, right? They just see numbers. And when you look even at the city budget, you're just thinking, oh, that's just a lot of money. That it, it's just some random numbers, but actually that number is someone's salary.
That's right.
Because the Department of Violence Prevention, the Department of Workplace Employment Standards, the the arts and culture department, race and equity, how all of that is people, right? And so
That's
think about if we really think about the programs we're doing, it's actually really all about job investment. It is about revigorating our economy
right.
and not
And those jobs, yeah, those jobs mean something. It means a library is open,
yeah,
a park or a rec center is
exactly.
open. Actually, Liz, if I could share with you one thing that is really important to me, this budget is going to invest more deeply in the San Antonio neighborhood in District 2. That is a neighborhood in the Flatlands in East Oakland, neighboring the Fruitvale,
Mhm.
that is really disinvested. But if you think about the park there, for example, that's where the Malcolm X Jazz
I
Festival has been happening. One of like all of our
Econo
favorite events,
Moratorium
right?
is there. I know that
Right.
right now there's somebody who's running a boxing program in the
Yep, that's Coach G running a boxing program out of the tennis courts. Tribe is doing food distribution out there. And so the community has really utilized that space
yes.
to create more community, to provide services. And so with this budget, we are going to reopen San Antonio Park with 2 staff and $250,000 of repairs, very needed repairs to the park. And so that will really allow the community to reactivate the park with programs in partnership with the city. And when we think about how a community is safe, it's like families out at the park
That's right.
enjoying playing games, programming,
Yeah.
people being out in the neighborhood. And that particular police beat, it's called 19X. It's actually one of the Department of Violence Prevention's target police beats in neighborhoods because of the high incidence of shooting, as well as high numbers in terms of unemployment and poverty. And so there's a direct correlation in terms of our investments in people and place to how we keep our communities safe.
I love that so much because East Side Arts Alliance is going on 21 years, I believe, of putting on the Malcolm X Jazz Festival. And every year I tell my kids, go to the bathroom now before we get there, because the San Antonio Park bathrooms are disgusting, right?
Right.
And it has been like that for years.
Yeah, we did replace the bathrooms last year, and with our Measure Q Parks funding, we're doing a bathroom blitz to really keep our parks restrooms much more clean. So that is definitely on our radar.
Yes, and I think that would be great because just to have staff there, to run programs there, because some of the parks that do have the staffing have great programming. I know that I heard earlier Noel Gallo talking about how he grew up here and going to the park was a place that he could do that safely. And I think that when I go to my favorite library, which is 81st Library in Deep East, which is our neighborhood library, is that when we walk in the door, it is a place where young people games. The scraper bikers are there fixing and repairing bikes. They're doing programs at the library. They're giving free food away. That these are the kinds of places where community, and that was a concern for library staff, right? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, these people there's just a job. But they really believe in what they do, and they really believe in serving the community.
That's right. And many of them are part of our community.
Exactly. They live there and they know these kids' names. They know who works there. They know, what's up with their parents, and they know how hard times get. And so when the pandemic hit and they had to shut down a lot of their services, a lot of people were worried about, like, where will they go? What will they do now? And I think that's a really critical piece.
It's so important. And so we're restoring dozens of part-time parks workers so that we can reopen and have the level of service we had before COVID. So I'm really glad we're able to do that.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I want to mention before I ask this very specific question from one of the comments is that oftentimes too, when the disinvestment, it always begins with arts and culture, right? It seems like the first thing that everybody wants to cut back on. Like, it's expendable. Art is expendable. And every single violence prevention program that I attended when I was a kid or that are in any programming, it is led by arts and culture, right?
Yeah.
The first people, I can't remember who the person is, and maybe someone in the chat can remind me of the person's name who came up with this. And I want to give them credit for for putting this out there. But they put artists are the first responders. So when, with the murder of George Floyd, and today the conference was right in front of a mural.
In front of a mural.
Right in front of a mural of Breonna Taylor. And I think that that's the first thing you do, right? Is like art.
Yep. I've got Emory Douglas's art behind me.
Exactly.
And had a chance to meet him at the Eastside Arts Alliance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at all this beautiful art here too, right?
Yep.
Right. Like, this is the voice of the community. And I think that in the investment, and I wonder what that investment looks like in your budget, because I know in the mayor's budget, it was very dismal and it was disappointing because we have seen a continual cut to arts and culture and the investment. And the community is always expected to pick it up. They're always expected to carry the burden of bringing these programs in. So could you talk a little bit about what the arts and culture piece looks like in your budget, what that reinvestment looks like?
Sure. I will just say that I appreciate all of the artists and culture workers and commissioners who've been engaging in the budget process. I mean, y'all were at every town hall as far as I can tell.
They are organized.
So y'all are organized. And I'll just say, we heard loud and clear. I believe the ask was for $9.5 million. Honestly, we're not getting there with this budget, but it's a commitment to move forward.
Got it.
So what we have in this budget is $1.5 million for programming and a staff person. I know it's not enough, but we are definitely committed to raising more money. There could be some state funding, for example. We're committed to raising private money. And again, this is a path forward to make a commitment. You know, here we are a day before the reopening to say, as we reopen, let's make sure our communities are better off.
Right.
And we know who we need to take care of.
Right. We
know who we need deeper investment in. This is another one of those issues, Liz, where the implementation has fallen short.
Right.
So our artists know that we have an art and culture department that has been divested, or not fully invested in, I should say,
right,
that talks about art as belonging.
Right.
There's a set of goals that we aspire to, but the money hasn't come behind it.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is we're going to acknowledge that with this budget. We're going to start the investment, but it needs to go further. And so for me, that means as we invest in violence prevention, we recognize there's a connection. And I talked to our chief of violence prevention about working with our arts and culture division, because there's a connection between those two things. And finally, I'll just say, I'm also committed to making sure that Oakland has more resources. Last year, I wrote legislation to create a progressive corporate business tax. And if we had passed it, then come January, we would have seen millions of dollars come into Oakland.
That's right.
We're going to try again this year to put it on the 2022 ballot. But part of this is also making sure that our resources are distributed equitably. They are not.
That's right.
And fixing our tax structure will help that.
Yes.
Redoing Measure Z, our violence prevention fund, so that the majority of resources goes into the community.
Right.
Is another way we are going to address that.
And that's a big thing because, when Refund Coalition put out these ads around the budget and where we are, a lot of people were like, all more taxes, more taxes, more taxes. And I think that's a thing that people need to know, right? Is that when the budget doesn't reflect our priorities and our values, we carry the weight by paying for it.
Yeah.
So we pay.
That's exactly right.
Which is regressive, right? And then a lot of taxes be put on property, and it's not evenly distributed according to income. And it's also within our business structures. I mean, I was blown away when I saw how much Clorox walked away with this year, how much Amazon, how much these big corporations are making in the billions and trillions, right? It's ridiculous
Right.
amounts
It's out of control. It's not fair.
from that, while small businesses are shuttering.
Right.
And so, yes, I think looking forward and moving forward with the progressive business tax, and looking at Measure Z and how do we restructure that. Thank you, Michelle Mushley, for letting us know. There's hashtag artists are as first responders, Ashara Akudayo. I hope I pronounced that right. And then the last question I wanted to get to before we kind of get to closing out was a specific question was, what percentage of the general fund was OPD getting under the mayor's proposed budget? And what is the percentage under the proposed amended budget? So I know that the mayor's budget was like 45%, correct?
45%, yeah. I was asked that question. I haven't looked at the math because I've been knee deep in putting together the spreadsheet, the policy directives, the memo, everything. But what we are reducing from the mayor's budget is $18 million. So we will maintain the same level of police academies we've always had. Because we are not adding the 2 academies that she proposed, we also have to reduce the number of officers. So we will be freezing 50 officer positions in the second year, which will allow for a transition for us to stand up the alternative crisis response. So I'm sorry, I don't know the math. When you subtract 18 million from that number, obviously it's not a seismic shift, but I want to let people know that there are a number of policy directives that we put together with those numbers. And so number 1, we are calling for an independent audit of OPD. We think we need to go further to truly understand, with half of their resources going to patrol and only 75% of the calls being non-criminal, how does that make sense? Can't we do that better? Can't we make sure that we're focusing resources on serious and violent crime, and also not stretching our officers, because it is a tough job. They're called to do everything because we're not investing at the neighborhood level. So I know that was a little bit of a long-winded answer, but it's not just about the money, it's about how we get to the accountability. Right. And so again, this is a roadmap to look deeply at making that police budget more effective, focusing on serious and violent crime, and investing in violence prevention and community.
That's right. That's right. And so I'd seen Protect Oakland Chinatown wants to ask, and did you read my agenda or something? Because that's actually the question I wanted to close out on is, can you share maybe 1 to 2, 3 things that you think we can all do to support the work, right? Support winning this budget. There's a council meeting on the 17th. There'll be another one on the 24th, and possibly roll us over into the 30th, but
the 29th.
I'm sorry, the 29th. That's what I meant. Mm-hmm. So that we need to pass something by by the 30th, right? And so, so what are some? I have a few things that I want folks to get involved with, but what are some of the things that you'd like to see folks get involved with?
Sure. So obviously we listen when people contact us, whether it's an email, a call, or joining a council meeting, or putting a public comment into our agenda. So this decision is being made by our city council. So find out who your council member is, make sure they know that you support a people-centered just recovery. I think it's also important to let the mayor, as an elected official, know that you also support this budget.
That's right.
We want to make the city work for us. So definitely make sure your voices are heard, and talk to your neighbors. There's a lot of misinformation that gets spread about what keeps us safe. And I think, Liz, you and I know, because I was part of Oakland Rising some years ago, you and I know that there is data that also shows a living wage job and a stable, affordable home does more to prevent gun violence than, beefing up our police budget. And if we focus on the data, we also know that Oakland's police budget has grown by 70% over 15 years. So from under 200,000 I'm sorry, 200 million 15 years ago to over 330 million now.
Yeah.
While we have just a sliver of an investment in parks and other departments. So we need to shift that, and we need to make sure that people really understand what we're working towards, which is a positive vision of what Oakland can be. And, check the facts and just really engage around what will keep that 17-year-old or those two 17-year-old boys who were killed by gun violence in my district not too long ago. Would a police have kept those two boys from killing each other?
No.
No, it's about how we invest
Right.
in our schools, in our jobs, in our neighborhoods, and in the organizations that have programming to support our young people.
That's right. That's right. And I had somebody Oakland Rising had done through the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force had done a texting survey and a program to contact folks in Oakland about what they thought. And of the 1,100 people who responded by text, over 65% said that they agreed that we should be defunding the police to refund the community. And when we asked them to fill out a survey, about 350 people responded. And the three things that people talked about, the top three that they said were solutions, were alternatives to policing. They said good jobs, good housing, right? That we need to be investing in prevention. And that know this, they know this, but haven't been given the opportunity and space to see that happen in their community, because the disinvestment continually happens. The systematic racism, the systematic capitalism, the way that it wears you down. Because even myself, like a few years ago, I was hustling like 3 or 4 different jobs. I came back, I was living abroad in Korea, and when I came back, I was trying to find work, and I had to hustle few jobs just to pay my rent. That, I think, this was way before the pandemic. So imagining what that experience is like for people who are in this economy, in this state right now, and what that struggle really looks like. So I really appreciate you coming on to join us today.
Thanks for having me, Liz. This was fun.
I know it was. I really enjoyed it. And I will say this, Nikki, that this has been our most active Monday Meals ever.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we've had so many people on here, and the chat has been going off the chain. And so just thank everybody for showing up today. I do want to say, I'm asking folks, if you really support and really liked what we did today and continuing to do Monday Meals, next week we actually have Dr. Ayodele Nzinga from BAM CDC Lower Bottoms Players Theater coming on to talk about arts and culture and that part of the budget. So really excited about that. She is Oakland's first poet laureate. So excited.
So exciting.
So excited.
So
yeah, is fire, y'all, fire. So really excited to have them come on. And if you really support the work that we're doing here, please feel support us, support our thing. Donate to us.
And if I could just make an ask, Liz, since you have a lot of viewers for Monday Meals today, what I am doing as the council president is not popular.
That's right.
But it's very rational. We're looking at the numbers and saying, let's focus policing on getting guns off the street and solving crimes, because the police chief has said repeatedly there's a small number of people committing crimes. So let's focus those resources and allow for reinvestment elsewhere. But I just want to say to folks who believe what we believe, that we also need you to support us and to talk to people and engage people, because there are people who are afraid of disrupting the status quo. There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
And now that I am inside City Hall, I am sincere when I say I want to work inside City Hall with Chief Armstrong, with the city administrator, even with the mayor, to make the city better.
Right.
Because we have been investing a lot in police resources versus other resources in Oakland. And we have to do something different because our communities aren't thriving right now, and they weren't before before COVID.
That's right. That's right. And you know, today at the press conference, Carol dropped the mic with, "This is radical, but what we mean by radical, it's rational."
That's right.
And that we are trying to be, this is the moment that what we've been saying for so long, this is rational. This is where we should be focusing our attention on, is our community and investing in our community. So if folks are down, if you're willing to support the work of Oakland Rising and our Monday meals and continuing it, go to oaklandrising.org/donate. You can also, there'll be a post that you can, just scan your phone, and it'll take you to our donation page to support the work. Support Council President Nikki Bass. Support Council Member Carol Fife and Rebecca Kaplan and Jane Howe and the rest of the folks on the council, and really pressuring and holding them accountable to the work and supporting the community. So thank you so much, Nikki. I had so much fun today.
Thank you, Liz.
This was great.
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
Everybody.
I'm actually ready to have my lunch and move on to other things today, but this was a bright spot.
Yes.
As well as the press conference. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.